Hello, so David.
All right, well, let's do this. I'm walking into a meeting here, so I've got your information. Let me set you up on a search. I'll send you some properties.
All right, bye-bye.
Are we doing live calls?
Yeah, we're doing live calls now.
Caller 93.
I guess we're obviously not on.
We are, actually.
Oh, we're live.
We were.
I walked in, it looked like you've been crying or something, man.
I thought that about Ben. I was like, what's wrong? He said, my mom asked me a lot of questions.
You learn as you age that you can sit there and bitch everything you want, but nobody's going to give a shit. So just don't bitch.
No, when you call 911, you shouldn't be put on hold. When you drive down the freeway, you shouldn't see tents. There's some fundamental issues.
This sounds like a political platform speech.
Are you moving to Texas? I'm going to go to Austin. I'll be going there next week.
Wait, you're going to Austin?
I'm going to Austin next week.
Guys, you hear that?
You want to go?
It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say, is even harder to find.
All right, guys, welcome back. It's actually been a couple of weeks since we've done a podcast. Yes. Things move quickly in the Valley.
Yeah.
The last time the four of us were together, I believe I said the market is shifting. Mark said it shifted, and I don't know what Aaron said. Aaron, what'd you say?
I seem to keep saying that the list price, is going to be more transparent. I've been saying that for 8 weeks, but now it finally is.
Okay,
it is very much
so now transparent pricing, meaning more times than not, the price you see is the price you pay.
Yep. If you're a seller out there listening to this, the chances of you selling your house in less than a week, I would say before you go on the market on a Tuesday, you have open houses Saturday, Sunday, you take offers the following Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Those days are kind of over. So just getting with your agent, whether it's us or somebody else, God forbid you work with somebody else, and just coming up with a plan as to if we don't get offers within 1 week, what do we do?
I say it all comes back to strategic pricing, right? No longer, don't set a price that's going to keep you up at night if it sells for that price, right? Set a price that one makes sense, right? And what I meant by that statement was, listen, somebody might say, well, if I don't sell my house for $1.8 million, I'm not going to sell it. Mm-hmm. But if $1.8 million is the value, then don't sell it. Don't put it on the market because you're wasting your freaking time, right? Because it's not an expectation, let's list it at 1.8 and we're going to get those 30 offers coming in and sell for $2.2 million in a week. It's not going to happen. But I still believe if you strategically put a price on a property that makes sense and it's a perceived value to the buyer's going to step up and pay for that property.
Is it fair to say that if you were trying to time the market, you lost?
I think that statement, timing the market, is...
People are like, I want to sell for the most amount of money. Well, that was 2 months ago, it looks like.
Our entire job, there's only two multiple things, but really, what is it? It's to get the highest amount of money in today's market, right? And whatever today's market is, and to protect liability. Those are the two things that we really bring to the table where we demonstrate our value in addition to negotiations, right? All we can do, we're not the buyers. The seller's not the buyer. The buyer is the buyer, and they're the ones who are setting the price. All we can do as agents is put that property in the best light possible, put a fair price on it, and see what's going to happen in the market, and make sure that we're staying ahead of the market in a market like this, right? If you're not getting any activity in 2 or 3 weeks, you better start doing some price reductions.
We do not set the value, but we maximize.
That's right.
There you go. And that's actually, Mark, that's a great segue into my weekly market minute.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Because it's actually, there's a lot of transition, and I think transition scares a lot of people because sellers and agents that have been in the business less than 7 years are used to that trajectory where everything's up, and fast. Well, all we're doing is we're slowing down a little, right? And so as of today, beginning of June, 1,243 single-family homes on the market in Santa Clara County. So, about where we believe we'd be. The interesting thing, and why I don't think people should panic, there's 908 pending properties, single-family home, right? So what does that tell you? That we still only have about a month and a half's worth of inventory on the market, right? So if no more homes come on the market, month and a half, everything's gone. So no need to panic yet. And then on the flip side, on condos and townhomes, currently we only have 344 on the market. Pendings are 441. So we're selling condos, townhomes faster than we're listing them with less than a month's worth of inventory. So, my message out to sellers and agents that haven't been through this before, it's not gloom and doom, right? The bottom's not falling off. It's not this bubble that's bursting and things are crashing down.
We've said this before. It's a premium pricing that we're going to give up at this point, which was that false pricing anyway, that false valuation. So, I know we say the same thing every month. I'm sure a lot of our listeners love to hear what our information is being in the trenches and stuff, but it's kind of been the same message that we've been throwing out there as we've seen this shift happen.
Absolutely. And things are slowing down across the board, right? We talked about this at lunch. Worldwide, since April, so 2 months.
You guys had lunch together?
We did. 17,000.
Must be nice.
It was nice and quiet. 17,000 tech jobs. 17,000 tech workers since April over the last 60 days have been laid off. That's worldwide. Amazon scaling back. Worldwide.
How many?
17,000 in the last 2 months. Amazon scaling back. They're getting ready to offload about 10% of their warehouse space. So, things are slowing down a little bit. And that's okay, right? Fed raised rates because they needed to cool down the economy. So, it's all happening like it should for now.
God, they just raised them so drastic, I felt like.
Well, that's a perception. I mean, they should have...
From 2.5 to...
Okay, but they should be, only because COVID kept things so falsely, the government purposely stimulated the economy by keeping it low. COVID did that to us. Normally, we would have already had quarter point increases along that 2-year time period.
Yeah, so
they had to make up.
Yeah, exactly. It's that ripping off of the Band-Aid.
Right.
Rates are actually...
they ripped it and took some hair with it.
Oh. Here's the other thing I want to address, though, because everybody, like I think, David, you said, it's like they panic, or buyers will be like, all of a sudden it's a buyer's market now, or sellers, oh my God, I missed the boat. Mm-hmm. The market still goes, life events still happen, people are still buying and selling. I'll tell you what, our area, no matter what, up, down, it's still the best place to own real estate, period. And the sooner you get in the game, the better.
And to your point about this area being the best, or one of the best places to actually buy and live, CoreFact, who, for our listeners that don't know, they basically have about the most amount of data for housing, year in, year out. So they just came out with the list last month about the major metro areas throughout the United States, which ones are overvalued, neutral, undervalued. This is kind of interesting. 67.9% of the major metro markets they consider to be overvalued.
Yeah, fair enough.
Only 7.6% of the metro markets are undervalued. And you know what one of those undervalued markets were?
San Jose.
Santa Clara County. They are still considering crazy. Santa Clara County and San Francisco, two different markets, both of them undervalued. And despite all of that, they are predicting a 5.9% rise in prices over the year.
That's crazy. I just don't see that happen. Although it's funny though.
How can you raise 5.9 when I'd say that we're easily down 15-20% on certain areas right now?
Well, I think because when you average it out over the year, and they're looking at all metro areas across the United States, not ours.
There's a real estate god. Send them our way.
It is interesting too, because you see all these different reports come out. I think there's two of them that I wanted to point out. One, that just came out, I think yesterday, today, of the best places to raise a family in the U.S. And Fremont, of all places, are number one. And one of the indicators they used was affordable housing. And I'm sitting there with Fremont. Sometimes who even writes these lists, right? And then they had Huntsville, Alabama, as the happiest place to live.
Hey, shout out Hurry.
So after Austin, I'm going to Alabama and checking it out.
I don't know if they look at like median income for an area versus home price. I mean, maybe it's a little more affluent.
Could be
across the board. But
here's one thing that threw me for a loop. Well, there's a lot of things that throw me for a loop. David, please don't make any further comments on that. I did not sell. I think it was 5498 Yale. Just couldn't get the price that we needed.
Right.
My seller had the option to rent it or sell it. He didn't like the number that he was going to get. So we pulled it off, got it rented out for him. In 5 days, guess how many applications we had? This property is in Cambrian.
I would probably say 10 to 15.
126.
Okay, so very interesting. Anytime you see an increase of interest rates and buyers slow down, the rental market's going crazy. So as everybody knows, we also have Forbes Group Property Management, and they cannot keep a vacancy at all right now. They are renting those things out like crazy. Because people are looking at those interest rates, like we say, so it kind of slows down that market.
But this is $4,100, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,100 square feet.
Yeah, think about, for our listeners that are outside of Silicon Valley, to listen to what you just said. $4,100 a month.
I know.
And
for an
I
1,100
noticed
square foot
something
house.
that I've never seen. People were coming to me saying, "Hey, I'll pay $4,200, $4,300. Hey, just don't show it to anyone else. I'll sign it right now."
But let me ask you this: that same house, what would the mortgage payment have been with 20% down?
That's what's crazy. is not only is it going to be 300,000-400,000 down, your payment's going to be something like 8,000. Yeah.
Plus property taxes.
No, what's with
property.
But even then, you're paying double plus the maintenance on the house.
So that leads me to something, and I was wondering if either of you knew. So some people may be seeing on Zillow, whatever search site you use, things are selling for $1,999,999. And that's because of that new tax that went through. It's the San Jose conveyance tax.
It's about a year old now.
What does that go to?
When, like, timeline?
Like, where does the money
Where's that money go for?
Like, what is it for?
It goes in the general fund. It's so funny when you look at these taxes. So, like, for instance, I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but like Los Gatos has, when you build a house in Los Gatos, you have it's called a in lieu sidewalk fee. So they will charge every house being built in Los Gatos a certain amount of money based off of the square footage there, linear foot, for putting a sidewalk in. Well, for those of us who live in Los Gatos, a lot of the streets, none of them have sidewalks. So you're sitting there and say, well, wait a minute, I'm going to have a 60-foot sidewalk in front of my house, and then they're like, oh, no, we're not putting the sidewalks in. So I asked the city manager one day, I said, hey, where's that money go? Is there a sidewalk fund? He goes, oh, no, it just goes into our general fund.
Yeah.
I mean, It just goes into the coffers.
Our tax dollars at work.
Yeah. And it's crazy. So you're absolutely right. When you see those homes on that $2 million barrier.
But yeah, people ask, and that's why, because over $2 million is that tax kicks in.
In fact, we have this slide in our wealth building scenario where we were talking about that, and literally it would go from, San Jose, it's $3.30 per thousand, correct, in the city of San Jose, up to $2 million. Well, guess what? Once you go over $2 million, it's 3/4 of a point or 3/4 of a percentage on the entire house, going back to $0. So it's not like from $2 million to $2,050,000, so you got a $50,000 spread. It goes all the way to the entire $2,050,000, right? So that takes a tax that would normally be $5,000 and makes it $15,000.
I think that the way that they write these things that get voted through is so goofy that if you explained what you just explained to the average human being, they'd be like, "Of course I don't want that." Right. But however it's written, it's like, let's just tax that.
Well, I mean, listen, Proposition 19. How do you think they got that? First it didn't pass because of the way they wrote it. Then the second time it passed because of the way they wrote it. And yet, they say scenarios where, okay, here's what we're going to do. If you happen to have a house, you die, and your kid's going to sell it, well, they have to live in it for them to get your property tax basis, right?
Yeah.
But if they don't live in it, then it gets reassessed, which is going to force them to sell it anyways because it gets reassessed at a value of $2-3 million. Yep. They can't afford to keep it, so they're going to have to sell it.
But if that was explained to somebody that knew they were going to, they wouldn't vote for that.
No, because what happens is, it's all going to the schools, and they get all the school board and everything saying, we're supporting this. And people who just see a 30-second commercial say, oh my gosh, well, this is for the schools, so we better vote that way.
And you know what? I went to Branham High School, and I went to say hi to some teachers, and they have a lot of the schools around here have the big new buildings. I think it's science buildings. And I was like, what's that sound? It sounds like a herd of elephants, first of all. So I'm not sure who the hell is building the buildings, but they need to do a better job of insulating the things. And number two, there's not even a bathroom in the main district lobby. Wow. They have to go outside and around. So whoever is voting for the freaking propositions needs to make sure that
and those
aren't
propositions,
better.
those are bonds.
Yeah.
Those are
the bonds.
The measure B's and E's and all those other things.
It's all screwed up. I'm going to Austin. Ben, what do you got for us?
I was going to say, Ben, what's up, buddy? You're all quiet.
I feel like I'm kind of like the devil's advocate here. Like, while everyone says the market's calming down and staying steady, I don't know. I've only, like you said, agents who have been in it for 7 years or below, they've only seen it go up. And I personally think we might see it crash a little bit, whatever the crash is here. Because like you said, property taxes are going up. I think sellers have this FOMO where they've missed the high and they want to stick their property on the market as soon as possible. I'm getting calls from friends, families, and past clients and stuff. And I don't know. I feel like buyers are now getting this opportunity as more properties come on to pick and choose, and we're seeing properties sit on the market longer. Properties not get the offers that they were usually getting, and I think that's going to kind of cause that crash if we do see one.
See, I think just the opposite. I know that how you led this conversation with that. It's going to just balance things out. What a great world now where sellers are still going to be able to sell. Yes, they're not going to get some crazy lottery type money, but in a way they will, because they paid. I just had a guy in my office. He paid $1.5 million for his house 7 years ago. It's now worth over $3 million, even with a correction.
And chances are you're going to be reinvesting the money anyway. So when you go to buy again, it's the same.
And now your buyers are able to get out there and buy shit.
And that's a great point. And I think you know, I don't want to use the word, but I think greed kind of takes over in these sellers. And, you know, when they see the market a couple months ago and they think we can get, you know, X amount of money.
Oh, I just lost $200,000.
They're hungry for it, you know, and, you know, relatively speaking, even, I have a property going $1 million over. Even if you get $800,000 over, you're still making a lot of money.
Cry about that?
But that's what I'm saying. Everyone still wants that number that they saw a couple months ago, and it's now.
Well, I would still want the number too. We
all still want the number, and that's what you were saying. You know, our job to maximize what we can get for the home is to put in the best light and to be as you know, whether it's transparent or whatever your strategy is behind the pricing.
I just lost the listing to another agent, and they used iPhone photos. Just saying. Put it in the best light. Go ahead.
The ADD medicine is flowing today.
So it must not have been the marketing which is the reason why you lost.
Clearly, it was the human being.
Hey, you know what, man? I mean, it was probably for the best, right? I mean,
no, it's a dynamite
you know,
home.
going back to Ben, what you were saying, the other thing that sellers don't realize is that at a certain point, they're in partnership with the government. Right? Because they only get a certain exclusion on those capital gain taxes, and they're going to have to pay those things. So, you know, when they start getting too greedy, they got to realize that 40% of that money is going to Uncle Sam.
Right.
So just, you know, be cool with it, especially in a market. That's why I say strategic pricing and making sure that have that conversation where the expectations are, listen, yes, your neighbor listed, we got one coming up in Leicester right now. Listen, one of them, it came on the market at 1.895, multiple offers went to 2.4 million. We're not going to see that today. You know, so let's list it 1.799, 1.899, and expect to maybe get around that price. You know?
Yeah.
But it's making sure we're having that conversation with the sellers. And the sellers not getting too greedy, because going back to your situation, not saying your clients are greedy by any means, but anytime I have a client who goes to list their property, and it's a rental property, not their own, right? I have no problem with a guy with a primary residence saying, hey, you know what, if you guys can give me $3 million, let's go ahead and try it for a couple of weeks. We're going to know where the market is, and then, you know, let's pull it off. It's my primary residence, I'm going to stay there. But on a rental property, or if it was a primary that they moved out of and now they're converting it to a rental property, I say, listen, if you're deciding not to sell the property today, what you're saying is that that property is going to be worth more money sometime in the next 3 years than it is today. Now, if we're in and the reason why I say 3 years is, what happens to that if it's a primary residence? What happens after 3 years?
Yeah, you lose your capital gains exemption.
They lose their exemption. So then at that point, that property better be a long-term rental form, or they're going to lose that exception. And there's no way, I don't believe, and I'd love to get your guys' opinion on this, with the way we cycle, if we're going down on this downward or correction, this correction is not going to be over in 1 to 3 years, right? So if you got that seller, you got to make sure they understand, listen, you know, we're probably going to get worse in the next 2 to 3 years. It'll come back, but that means now you're in it for the long run. You're going to hold on to that property for 5 to 7 years.
That's a great segment into this little picture I have here. So like what you said, it's not going to happen, you know, over one night. But I found this. We'll put the link under our YouTube page.
Link in bio.
We now, because we have 100 subscribers, we can put our own link on there. It'll direct you right towards this. But it's a cycle. It's called the psychology of the market cycle. And I think where we're at right now is between complacency and anxiety, where you have kind of half the people saying, you know, we've missed out, we need to sell as soon as possible, and the other people saying, it's okay, we still bought at a good time, we're going to be okay for the future. And if it does start to crash or come down, like you're saying, in a few years, you know, there's a couple spots on here.
Funny.
No, it's smart though. You know, after anxiety, you're going to hit that stage of denial and their panic, where people are going to wake up and go, okay, the market's crashed. You know, what do we do now? And then after that, you'll find that contempilation point where the people who haven't sold yet finally sell. And then if it really does, you know, crash and the fire sale starts, I think people are going to be angry. You're going to have a lot of investors and a lot of people who bought at the tip of the market who now can't afford their property taxes. There's no exit strategy. They've lost their jobs.
I hover between euphoria and denial.
That's just the world you live in, dude.
Yeah. I'm rich.
But I mean, to your point, listen, the worst of the market was 2008, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when things bottomed out. We had that back in 94, 95 as well. Again, we cycle, but I do believe that there's regulations in place to protect us from those huge hits. Yes. We go back to 2008, man, some of these markets lost 50% of their value. Mm-hmm. I don't see those times happening again in our area, because every time the bar gets raised further and further, we still have tons of money in this area, tons of equity. And that's not going away.
And there was responsible lending this time around.
Absolutely.
People are sitting on more equity now, much more than they were back in 07 and 08.
So let's do this, because I know we're probably getting to the end here. I want to hear, one, what is your advice? What's your elevator pitch to a seller right now? And what's that pitch to a buyer right now? What's your advice?
Back when I was selling real estate in the 90s. Go ahead, Ben. What's your elevator pitch?
So I'll go for my buyer pitch first. Well, interesting enough, and not to go back in a previous conversation we had, but I think Michael Houghton, who you guys had on here a while ago, I think, didn't he say this week that interest rates have come like to one of the lowest points it's been since February? After it's shot up, it's come back down.
I actually was going to say earlier that mortgage interest rates are right now, they have dropped back down to about a 4-week low.
So what is that now? 4.5, 4.75?
No, it's 5 something.
I think they're still hovering
We're
around
still
5.
Okay.
Yeah.
5?
Yeah,
For
but
a
again,
30-year.
there's adjustable rate mortgages that buyers should be looking at right now.
Which it seems to be most lenders are pushing their clients towards adjustable rate, thinking that's going to be going down in the next 4 to 5 years.
And I said this several podcasts ago, once the market slows down, the banks will open up the products and programs to get more people in for purchase.
And that's what
They
I
still
tell my
need
buyers.
applications.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I say to my buyers. You know, you're not going to be in this property realistically for over 10 years. So you look for an adjustable rate. You know, if your stock especially is coming down heavy and you need to pull your money out and put it into something safer, you can still find an adjustable rate to where you're paying, you know, a moderately decent price. And if you're in the market right now looking for something and you need something, there's so many motivated sellers you can take advantage of, and who will sell off market, who will sell preemptively because they know in their head, you know, if we're looking for a price point between $850 and $900,
The elevator arrived.
yeah, if we're looking for, well, if you're looking, you know, for a price point between $850 and
now it's crashing back
$900,
down.
and you're, you know, nervous about it, and someone comes to you and, you know, gives you a relatively good number and a quick close, as a seller,
take it or move with it.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what the average interest rate is
8%.
over 40 years? Oh,
Was that right?
7.5. 7.5, pretty damn close. 7.5.
Back in the 80s, remember?
Yeah, back in the 80s.
So David, he answered the buyer, you answer to a seller. What do you tell a seller right now? What's that expectation dialogue?
Yeah, you cannot look back 30 days and expect to get that same price, right? You cannot. And back to what you said earlier, we're going to get you the most money that we can for you in this market. And you just have to accept that. The seller doesn't control the price. We don't control the price, the market does. And our job is to get as many eyeballs on your property as possible. We do that at a very high level, and we are still generating very successful results for our clients, except for Aaron.
Oh, it's not true. Aaron's been doing a
kidding.
great job. As a matter of fact, I think he's one of the top producers on the team right now.
Well, it's like Aaron said a couple podcasts ago, you know, there's no rhyme or reason. It was the same when properties were going crazy over. It's the same now when you think
Well,
and
and I think,
expect.
you know, one of our practices is to let the seller determine what that price is and let them walk from the contract if need be, right? We don't have any time periods in our contract. So,
Absolutely, but you got to remind the seller, why are we selling in the first place?
Absolutely.
What's the ultimate goal? And are you going to get hung up on 20 grand or 50 grand or whatever it is and lose sight of that goal and that long-term, plan that you have for you and your family?
I was not smiling at your comment because I was practicing my elevator pitch in my head.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, let's hear it.
Which one would you like?
Both. Let's go
Yeah.
with it.
Seller.
30 seconds.
Ready?
Seller.
Listen, you never had the money. You want $2 million, your house is worth 1.8. Unfortunately, you never had that money. If you wanted that money, you should have called me 60 days ago. I'm going to maximize every dollar. Don't shoot the messenger. All we can do is lay out what the market's going to give.
Right.
You're ready to go to the next chapter of your life. Let's maximize it and keep it moving.
Awesome.
Buyer. You've reached a point in your life. Let's buy the house. It's a great market. It's a much more neutral than it was 2 months ago. It makes sense financially. Let's get you the tax benefits. We could build you some equity, and then we'll at least have a foundation so that when you're ready to buy your next place, you can go from one to the other.
Yeah, and be glad that you're getting your home $200,000 less than your neighbor that bought it 60
Especially
days ago.
if you believe,
True.
the market is going to, stock market is going to go down. Like put it in something tangible, right?
Yeah.
Like you can remodel your kitchen and make money on
and just get into the market. As long as you're here for 7 to 10 years, you just got to get into the market. Now, you can be overpaying or whatever you think you're doing. It's going to be a great deal 7 to 10 years from now.
So, lastly,
Yes.
people are going to start to notice that these discount companies are going to start going away, right? Like the online things where you
Absolutely.
guys can type in your info and they're going to get you a cash offer, blah, 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 blah. Well, in my opinion, if you're working for a discount company, you probably failed in real estate, so you had to pivot, blah, blah, blah. This is not an attack. I do not need any cease and assist letters.
That's right.
We already got one. And you're going to start to see agents that do really well thrive.
Yeah.
And agents who just don't have their client's best interests / don't really know what the heck's going on, we kind of weasel and weed their way out.
Which, according to California Association of Realtors, they're expecting 30% of licensed agents in California to be gone in 3 years.
David, the numbers guy.
There we go.
And by the way, there's a company that starts with a C and ends in an S who is really running quite low on cash.
they still have more cash than you and me combined.
True that.
They'll be all right.
All right.
But
On that note,
Good stuff.
We'll see you next. Oh, by the way, go Warriors.
Go Warriors.
here we go.
And the next time you see us, we're going to have a sweet new setup.
All right, guys.